People always talk about how lies destroy you, how betrayal shatters everything you thought you knew. But that's not how it feels. Not really. Lies don't hit you like a car crash. They don't scream in your face or kick down your door. No, lies are gentle, soft, patient. They seep into your life a drop at a time, slow enough that you don't notice the taste changing, until one day you wake up choking on poison you thought was water. I learned that the hard way. My name doesn't matter, not for this story. What matters is the person I used to be, and the person I became because of one man. Ethan. For most of my life, I believed trust was the strongest bond a person could create, stronger than love, stronger than blood, stronger than fear. Trust, I thought, was sacred, something you built carefully, brick by brick, through honesty and loyalty, and I believed, with all the naive, blinding conviction of a fool, that I had built that trust with Ethan. We met when we were 12, two kids who didn't quite fit into the shapes the world tried forcing us into. I was the quiet one, the observer, the kid who sat at the back of the classroom, watching people instead of talking to them. Silence was my shield, my comfort, my curse. Ethan, he was the opposite. Charismatic, effortless, magnetic. He could walk into a room and shift all the attention toward himself without even trying. People loved him instantly. Teachers, parents, classmates, everyone. Everyone except me. Maybe that's why he liked me so much. I wasn't impressed by him. I didn't laugh at his jokes just because everyone else did. I didn't orbit around him like he was the center of the universe. I think my indifference intrigued him, and in a way, it made him honest with me, at least in the beginning. We became friends, real friends, the kind of friendship where you spend late nights talking about your dreams, your fears, your stupid insecurities, the kind of friendship that feels like it'll last forever. He used to say, "People pretend with everyone else, but with you, I don't have to." And I believed that. God, I believed that. Back then, my home was filled with silence, not the peaceful kind, but the heavy kind, the kind that comes after years of arguments, blame, disappointment. My parents weren't cruel, they were exhausted. Life had drained them into emotional ghosts. So when Ethan chose me, when he laughed with me, defended me, shared his secrets with me, I clung to that connection like oxygen. For years, we were inseparable, two halves of one vision. We talked about the future like it was a movie we were writing together. We'd move to the same city, share an apartment, start a business, take over the world, side by side. You know how kids make stupid promises, swearing they'll be best friends until they're old and gray? We meant it. At least, I did. And maybe that's why this hurts so much now. Because when I give loyalty, I give all of it. No questions, no doubts. Just blind, unshakable faith. Faith I didn't realize was being weaponized against me. We grew up, moved out, got our own place in the city, just like we dreamed. Life became stable, predictable. I got a job in finance, nothing glamorous, but it paid well. Ethan bounced between creative projects, photo shoots, video editing, writing gigs. He was brilliant, but inconsistent. Some months he made money. Other months he didn't make any at all. And every time he fell behind on rent, groceries, bills, I stepped in. Not because he asked, but because I believed in him more than he believed in himself. I thought that was what friends did. I didn't know back then that enabling someone can sometimes be the cruelest act of all. Ethan was a storyteller. Always had been. His words came wrapped in color and fire, getting bigger and brighter each time he repeated them. He could turn the most boring event into a dramatic saga. I admired that about him. I never questioned it, because when you trust someone completely, their words become your truth. Their lies become your reality. And that, without knowing it, became my downfall. But the real fracture in my life didn't start with Ethan. It started with Lena. I met her through him. He brought her to one of our game nights, introducing her with that same playful arrogance he used whenever he discovered something he believed no one else could appreciate. She smiled at me, warm, open, curious, not in that flirtatious, transparent way some people use, but like she genuinely saw me, internally, not just physically. We talked all night. About books, about fears, about how coffee tastes better at 2 a.m. when you're too tired to think but too restless to sleep. She wasn't loud. She wasn't dramatic. She wasn't performing. She was real. And I didn't know how rare that was back then. We started dating. Slowly. Naturally. Like two puzzle pieces that weren't aware they had been searching for each other. Ethan was thrilled. At least, that's what he said. He teased me about finally acting like a human. He told me Lena was perfect for me. He told her I was the most loyal person she'd ever meet. And I thought, how lucky am I? Two of the most important people in my life getting along so well. Except, he showed up everywhere. On our dates, our dinners, our walks, sometimes invited, sometimes just in the neighborhood. He texted Lena often. Late-night memes, long conversations about her job, inside jokes they formed surprisingly fast. At the time, none of it felt strange. Ethan had always been involved in my life. That was our dynamic, or so I believed. If I had paid more attention, I would later tell myself, I would have noticed the first cracks right there. But when you love someone, friend or partner, your brain finds it easier to silence warnings than face what they mean. And I wanted to believe everything was perfect. A job I liked, a woman I loved, a friend I trusted, a small apartment that smelled like coffee and fresh laundry, movie nights, weekend breakfasts, inside jokes that felt like home. It looked like a stable life, a happy life, a safe life. But it was all built on a rotting foundation. You don't always notice when your life starts to break, not because the signs aren't there, but because believing the truth hurts more than living the lie. And the truth is, Ethan wasn't just a liar. He was a manipulator, a masterful one, the kind that hides behind charm and laughter and good intentions. My world was built on the stories he told, stories I had no reason to doubt, stories I believed so deeply that even when the truth sat directly in front of me, whispering, warning, begging to be seen, I blinked and looked away. Until one night, Lena fell asleep on the couch, exhausted from a long day at work. Her breathing was slow, her hair resting across her face. The soft glow of the TV flickered against her skin like she was part of a dream I didn't want to wake up from. Then her phone lit up on the coffee table. I didn't mean to look. I wasn't snooping. But sometimes life hands you the truth even when you're not searching for it. The preview said, "Are you still awake? I need to talk." And Ethan. My heart slowed. Not panicked, not suspicious, not yet, just confused. But then another message appeared, one that made the air leave my lungs. He can't know. Everything inside me went still. Not angry, not jealous, not yet. just silent. The kind of silence that feels like the world has paused around you. I sat there, staring at her sleeping body, wondering how many nights I had lived inside a lie without knowing it, wondering what else I'd been blind to, wondering why the people I loved most felt the need to hide anything from me at all. That was the moment the first piece of my world snapped. Not loudly, not violently, just a quiet crack, barely noticeable, but enough to let the truth seep in through the fracture. I didn't touch her phone, didn't even open the messages, didn't wake her. Instead, I sat there, breathing slowly, letting the cold realization settle into my bones like winter. That I started noticing inconsistencies in the stories Ethan and Lena told me, like fragments from different scripts clumsily stitched together. Lena said she was busy with school, but Ethan claimed he saw her at a cafe. Ethan told me he stayed home all weekend, but Lena mentioned he'd dropped something off at her place. Everything felt coordinated, rehearsed, like they had practiced their lines beforehand. And then, the final blow. One evening, my phone rang. Unknown number. A woman's voice on the other end. Hesitant, almost apologetic. She asked if I was Ethan's friend. I said yes. She sighed heavily and told me something that tightened my chest like a fist. I think you should know the truth. She told me Ethan wasn't who I thought he was, that he'd been involved with multiple women, lying to all of them. She said he told her things about me, things friends don't say, cruel things. She said Ethan described me as insecure, gullible, someone easy to manipulate, someone who needed him to function, someone he stayed friends with only because he felt sorry for me. Hearing those words broke something deep inside, not just my trust, but my entire identity. Because it wasn't passion or emotion that drove Ethan's betrayal, it was convenience, strategy, habit. She confessed she'd been lied to too, found out about Ethan's multiple exclusive relationships. When she confronted him, he blamed me, said I was stressing him out, interfering, obsessed. I felt disgust, not just at Ethan, but at myself, for believing the lies for so long, for giving him power, for defending him, for trusting someone who had no concept of loyalty. When I hung up, Lena walked into the room. She saw my face, pale, hollow, shaking. She asked what happened. For the first time, I looked at her differently. Not with suspicion, not with anger, but with clarity. I asked her again, calmly, "Are you hiding something from me?" This time, she didn't answer. Her silence was the answer. Betrayal is like bleeding from a wound you didn't realize you had. A wound cut years ago, slowly, without warning. That night, I sat alone on the balcony, until dawn, staring into the endless dark. I thought about every lie Ethan told me, from the small stories to the big secrets. About Lena's complicity, about every year wasted trusting someone who fed on my loyalty like a parasite. And then I said the words that marked the beginning of everything that followed. That night, I stopped grieving the friendship. I started planning how to end it. This betrayal wasn't personal. It was systematic, strategic, long-term. I didn't want confrontation. I didn't want apologies. I wanted something else. I wanted Ethan to feel the weight of the truth the way I did. Slowly, painfully, inevitably. If Ethan spent years building lies, then I would spend months building the truth and make him choke on it. The days after that call, the call that shattered everything, I expected to feel rage, heartbreak, maybe even denial. But none of that came. Instead, something strange settled over me. A cold, icy calm. It was sharper than anger, quieter than pain, a clarity that cut through the chaos like a blade. I stopped searching for reasons why Ethan lied. I stopped trying to read Lena's every glance, every expression. I stopped trying to fix what was broken. Because I finally understood something simple, devastating. You can't save a relationship that was built to deceive you. That was the turning point, the moment I stopped being a victim and became a strategist. Betrayal has two stages, the breaking and the awakening. The breaking hurts more. The awakening lasts longer. I woke the next morning with a strange emptiness where my trust used to live. It felt like someone had emptied a room inside me. Quiet, clean, ready for something new. In that hollow space, something cold and razor-sharp began to grow. Purpose. Before this moment, revenge wasn't even on my mind. I just wanted answers. But now, there was nothing left to discover. Ethan showed me who he was, Lena showed me who she was, and both of them believed I would never fight back. They mistook my silence for weakness. They thought the quiet, loyal one would always forgive. They were wrong. I became an observer, watching without reacting. I didn't confront Lena. I didn't block Ethan. I didn't give them the satisfaction of anger, sadness, or suspicion. I became unreadable, invisible. Invisible but watching. I noticed every tiny movement I had ignored before. How Lena locked her phone the moment I walked into the room. How Ethan took longer than usual to reply to texts he used to answer instantly. How their stories grew rehearsed, carefully crafted lines told over and over like a bad play. How they avoided being in the same room when I was around. Liars fear silence. They fear the spaces where truth can breathe. And I used that silence as a weapon. A few days later, Lena tried to break through. She said, "I feel like you're drifting away." Her voice soft, almost pleading. I looked at her and said nothing but, "Do you?" No explanation, no emotion. Just a question. That question was a mirror. It terrified her. She stumbled over excuses, half-truths, words without conviction, and I said nothing more. Later, she texted Ethan. I didn't need to see the message to know what it said. I think he knows. Because liars panic when their target stops reacting, when silence replaces the easy forgiveness they've counted on. The shift wasn't just emotional. It was strategic. I realized Ethan wasn't just a liar. He was a manipulator. The woman who called me? She wasn't alone. Ethan's pattern was long, repetitive, intentional. Patterns can be broken. Patterns can be exploited. If he had spent years weaving lies so effortlessly, I would take those same lies and make them collapse from within. Not with anger, not with violence, but through exposure. But exposing a liar takes precision, timing, patience, control. Revenge isn't hurting someone back. It's making them face themselves, the one thing they spend their entire life avoiding. That became my goal. I started small. With Lena, I watched, tracked her reactions when Ethan's name came up, noticed the days she suddenly needed space, saw the outfit she wore when she said she was studying late. But I never confronted her. Confrontation gives liars a chance to reinforce their lies. I waited. With Ethan, I played a different game. I became friendlier than usual, casual, warm, predictable. He lowered his guard, slipped into old habits, oversharing, bragging, letting pieces of the mask fall away. From those conversations, I gathered fragments. Women Ethan had lied to, people he owed money to, projects he pretended to be working on, stories he made up about me. Each lie was a thread, and I began collecting them, one by one. I created a folder on my laptop,
labeled simply truth. Inside, I gathered everything. Screenshots of suspicious conversations, voice notes from the woman who called me, photos of Lena's late-night study sessions, financial inconsistencies involving Ethan, dates, timelines, contradictions, notes on Ethan's manipulation tactics, names of the women he deceived. I wasn't gathering evidence to confront them. I was preparing for destruction. That was the real turning point. Not when I discovered the betrayal, but when I chose how to respond. I stopped thinking emotionally, started thinking tactically. I didn't want to embarrass Ethan. I wanted him to unravel. I didn't want to yell at Lena. I wanted her to face her own guilt.
I didn't want to break them. I wanted them to break themselves with the truth. And truth spreads like wildfire. In the weeks that followed, they changed. Ethan became paranoid, checking in nervously, asking if I was okay. Lena became overly affectionate, almost desperate to seem honest. They hid their communication better, but by then, I wasn't the one being manipulated anymore. I was the one manipulating them. Through their own fear, they taught me how to trust, but they also taught me how to watch. And now, I would teach them how consequences work. The moment I stopped loving them was the moment I became dangerous. The calm before the storm settled around me like a fog, thick and suffocating. I'd spent weeks weaving my web, quietly, methodically, making sure every thread was exactly where it needed to be. Revenge, I'd come to understand, isn't sudden. It's engineered. It unfolds like a slow-burning fuse, unseen until it's too late. Ethan wasn't just a liar, a cheater, or a coward. No, he was a collector, a hoarder of trust, admiration, and attention. He lived for the applause, for the role of the good guy in every story told around him. That image, that mask, was his oxygen. Without it, he would suffocate. So, I decided to take that away, piece by piece. First, I mapped out his network of lies, years of half-truths, of stories told so many times they became gospel. The nights he said he was meeting a friend, when in reality, he was slipping into someone else's life. The promises of exclusivity made to several women, all told that they were the one. The casual cruelty masked by brotherly affection, the same brotherhood he mocked behind my back. Each lie became a node on my blueprint, each person a point on a sprawling web. Ethan hadn't built a life. He had built a web. And webs are fragile. Touch one thread the right way, and the whole thing trembles. I was ready to shake his world. Next, I found allies among his victims. The woman who called me first, the one who shattered my illusions, she wasn't alone. I reached out with calm honesty, not anger or desperation. Were you the only one? Her bitter laugh was answer enough. No. She connected me to others, women Ethan had lied to, used, manipulated. Some had dated him. Others were caught in his lies, promised something exclusive while he spun the same story elsewhere. I built a quiet alliance, not for drama or vengeance, but for truth. I told them simply, I want everyone to know. No confrontation, no chaos, just the truth. Most agreed without hesitation, because truth, once tasted, needs no convincing. Then came assembling the evidence, the puzzle Ethan never wanted completed. Screenshots of conversations where the same words were sent to multiple women. Voice notes of Ethan complaining about me, calling me clingy and jealous. Timelines that made no sense, like weekends where he was supposedly with one person but was seen with another.
Proof of Lena's meetings with him when she said she was studying late. Financial records showing loans Ethan took from some women under false pretenses. Even questions posed to mutual friends. Quiet, subtle inquiries that revealed inconsistencies no one noticed before. By the end of the month, my folder labeled Truth had become a mountain. I wasn't collecting evidence to confront or yell or cause chaos. I was building a fortress of facts, one Ethan couldn't deny or dismantle. And then I began the psychological setup. I did the opposite of what Ethan expected. I got closer. Casual coffees, warm smiles, old jokes. He slipped right back into the role of the best friend, unaware the knife was already at his back. He started to confide again, complaining about the stress in his other relationships, pretending to be overwhelmed. I listened, every word filed away like ammunition, because comfortable people let their guard down. Careless people expose themselves. With Lena, I took a different approach. I grew distant, quiet, polite but cold. It confused her. It rattled her. She tried to spark conversations. I answered with quiet nods. She asked if everything was okay. I told her, everything is the way it needs to be. Those words struck her harder than any accusation could. Guilt doesn't handle calm well. It panics. She overcompensated with affection, grew nervous, asked about Ethan indirectly, watched him as if waiting for him to explode. But I wasn't planning an emotional scene. I was preparing a slow, inevitable collapse. Finally, after weeks of gathering, watching, and waiting, I created a single, unassailable digital file. For everyone who deserves the truth. Inside were timelines, screenshots, messages, conversations, audio clips, proof of overlapping relationships, proof of lies told about me, proof of Lena's involvement, proof of financial manipulation. No venom, no hatred, just facts. I added a simple note. This is not revenge. This is closure. For anyone who was deceived, hurt, or used, you deserve to know the truth. I didn't even write Ethan's name with anger, just cold, hard facts. Then came the distribution plan. I didn't want to flood the world with chaos all at once. No, the truth had to spread naturally, organically, like a wildfire catching dry grass. I sent the file privately to the women who had joined me. They shared it with their circles. Those circles shared it further. Mutual friends caught wind. Ethan's carefully crafted image began to crack, shatter, crumbled by the weight of his own lies. And Ethan himself? He would be the last to know he was exposed. When he finally tried to spin his lies, no one would listen. Revenge isn't about destroying someone. It's about removing the mask they forced you to trust. Ethan had hidden behind his for years. It was time everyone saw what was underneath. The plan was ready. The pieces were in place. And Ethan was walking straight into the storm he never saw coming. There was a strange stillness that night, the night before everything began. I sat alone in my room, the glow of the laptop casting harsh shadows on the walls, my fingers hovering over the keyboard. In front of me lay the folder labeled simply, Truth. The culmination of months of silent planning, painstaking gathering of evidence, of watching and waiting. I didn't feel excitement. I didn't feel rage or triumph. Nor was there fear, just a cold, unsettling calm, like the eye of a hurricane, the quiet moment before the storm breaks. It was a stillness that settled deep inside me, a clarity that no emotion could disturb. There is a moment before a storm where everything is still. That was me. I stared at the screen long after the clock struck midnight, knowing that when the sun rose, nothing would be the same. The next morning came with cruel inevitability. At exactly 9 o'clock, I hit send. I sent the file, the entire dossier of lies, betrayals, and deceptions, to the women Ethan had shattered over the years. The message was short, almost sterile in its simplicity. You deserve to know the truth. What you do with it is your choice. And then I put my phone down. I didn't refresh the screen. I didn't check for replies. I let the truth go, loose into the world like a virus, knowing it would spread far beyond what I could control. Within 20 minutes, the first message popped up. "Oh my God, I knew it. Thank you." Another followed. "I'm shaking. I'm sending this to everyone he lied to." Still, I said nothing. No encouragement, no further words. I was an observer now, watching the fragile facade begin to crack. By noon, 3 more women reached out, their messages heavy with disbelief and relief. By mid-afternoon, 2 mutual friends texted me, their confusion thick in their words. By evening, the truth had infiltrated circles I never even knew existed, and Ethan's world started to fall apart. That evening, around 7 o'clock, I stepped out for coffee.